Moving on. Illegal dumping. There's a presentation. I know there's a discussion. Pete, you've been asking questions. We have a presentation, I believe, right? Yes. Carrie Romano.
And friends.
And friends.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Romano. I'm Director of the Environmental Services Department. I'm joined at the table by José. Joe's the Deputy Director leading our solid waste programs, amongst other things. And Diana Lolicki is a Deputy with Department of Transportation. Dan Buchanan is a Deputy with Planning, Building, Code Enforcement. And Jenny Loft is the Outreach Communications Manager with Environmental Services. And we also consider Paul Piera with the Mayor's Office part of our team. He's provided us some advice we've taken and advice we've ignored. But anyway, so
Thanks, Carrie.
Unpaid.
So we have an update to share with you, but we also wanted to maybe look back a little bit. Probably 8 months or so ago, there was a backlog of solid waste in the wrong place throughout the city, and all of the departments across the city kind of got together and said, okay, this is not how we want it to be. We're hearing from our residents. It's not how the residents want it to be. So let's try a couple different things. So keep that in mind as you hear kind of our approach, is that we're trying a couple different things. We're going to see what works and then really dive in more heartily into the things that seem to be effective and try and roll that out through the city. Our hope is that in the next 6 to 12 months, you won't be hearing about the topic illegal dumping. We're trying to change the conversation to a clean city. So we'd really like everything to be in the place that it should be and working with our residents to put things where they should be. So for example, we'll get complaints that there's a mattress on a sidewalk. It's not clear to me how someone thought that was the right place for that mattress, right? But we don't get calls that someone's dragging the mattress across the street. Nobody seems to see that. So we'd like to get the community a little bit more involved so that we can sort of prevent the material from going in the wrong place, because we've implemented a lot of tools that are low cost or free to help folks get rid of it during the light of day rather than in the middle of the night. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe. We would like to ask if you could just hold your questions to the end, because we think we've organized it so we'll get to the most of the areas of interest, and then we look forward to your comments and feedback.
Thank you, Carrie.
Next slide.
So we kind of began this current effort with noticing a dramatic increase in complaints of illegal dumping that really came to a head in 13-14. So Department of Transportation, Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, Environmental Services, and the City Manager's Office kind of formed a HIT team to try to figure out why the upsurgence and what we could do about it, and how we were deploying resources now to address it and how we could optimize that. So the City Council approved a budget for an analysis, and that was completed last year, and that was done by R3 Consulting, and I think Pete sent you all the link to that study. In that study, there were some interesting things and some things I'm sure you could predict. Most of the dumping per the analysis in the study, and a lot of what the study did was look at the information we had in San Jose and then what other cities are doing. We are the only city, especially in the Bay Area, facing the upsurgence in illegal dumping. And by illegal dumping, we're talking both about large items, trash, construction debris, kind of everything that is where it's not meant to be. So that study was completed and published last year. Some of the findings were that most of the data indicated that there was a significant amount of the issue that came from apartments. Also, some dumping came from single-family homes. We're still not quite sure whether a lot of the dumping comes from people around the neighborhood or maybe people bringing it in from other areas where they see a place where they can dump at night and no one will notice. And that's some of the things we're trying to look at with the pilot we're doing now. What is the source of dumping, and how do we really make dumping not a very unattractive option in San Jose. So the study also looked at all the resources we had for dumping. Some of the conclusions were that we were a little fractionalized in how we had resources. A lot of departments at the city had dealt with illegal dumping, but we weren't necessarily tackling the issue as a coordinated effort. The outreach we did for dumping, engaging citizens, who to call if you see dumping, those messages were disjointed in the city. So last year we started, as those findings came to light, and we met with the consultant several times, so we knew what kind of the major points were, where the report was going that we needed to work on. We were able to get some additional funding last year for some pilot efforts that we just implemented in January. And we were focused on the findings of the study, which is one of the things that residents needed to know, or the public needed to know, is how to dispose of things legally and make those processes as easy as possible. So we had already started down the path before this report of providing low cost to no cost solid waste pickup for apartments. But one of the issues that came to light at the study was we had limited the people that could call in for those collections to apartment managers. So tenants that were moving out that day or needed to deal with their large items that week, the apartment manager wasn't around to get hold to, would often just leave those items either on the street next to the complex and by the dumpsters, but not in the containers. So one of the things we wanted to test, which we started, was making it easier for tenants to dispose of those items without necessarily having to go through their landlord. And also we wanted to look at, we wanted to make sure the resources that we had to deal with dumping were used as efficiently as possible, and we kind of wanted to have an area where we can do some experiments with our contracted haulers for some of the dumping versus city crews. The city crews that we had been using and still use now follow complaints. So if someone calls, they get a complaint, they go out. The issues, there's some efficiency issues with that because a complaint in one day may be El Viso and West San Jose and by Silver Creek. So sometimes it's not as efficient routing that way if you're going all over the city to pick up these complaints. So we wanted to look at a different way of collection using our private haulers. Next slide. So we embarked on all these things. The first one was to really get the word out, as I talked about our multifamily program, because we knew that was one of the main sources of dumping, at least per the study. So we did a lot of outreach, are continuing to do a lot of outreach, changed our protocol to allow tenants to call in for collections and not limiting it to property owners. And here's some of the outreach we've developed to get it, making that easier to do. We wanted it to be easy. It is actually harder, as Carrie likes to say, to get up in the middle of the night and grab the mattress and dump it in the street than to just call. That was our main point, and we really wanted to get the word out. Our apartment program quadrupled in the first year. We actually, we were averaging maybe 1,000 calls a year, and we're now several thousand. It's been very, very popular, and we're still trying to get the word out to complexes that aren't using it. The other program that we had wanted to try, because it's a service other cities offer, and we wanted to offer it too, was no cost large item collection. And we wanted to do it in a way that really got the need. There's points in your year where you need to get rid of large stuff, and we wanted to have a service that was flexible for that. So council approved in the budget this past June one free collection per household of 3 large items. That also, we started that October 1st, and we're also still getting the word out on that program, but we have over doubled the amount of collections for that program. So it's 3 large items, 3 refrigerators, 3 sofas, any mix, we'll come and collect it. We're trying for a 1-week turnaround time is our goal, and again, we're getting the word out on that service. But that also provides a very, very convenient way to get rid of large animals. The other thing that we had been experimenting and also came up with a report is prevention using deterrence. So physical barriers in areas that are likely to get dumped, which could be cul-de-sacs, dark streets that have no building at the end, places where we're repeatedly seeing get calls about dumping. So we did experiment with deterrents, which are bollards, cameras, signage, real cameras, fake cameras, and we did meet with some success, and I think Pete shared some of that data to you. It is place specific, so certain deterrents work really well in certain areas, so where cameras are kind of, you have a limited area to access, cameras work well, and Diane but both the Dianes have been leading that effort and can answer your questions. And of course, camera technology is changing every minute, and we did get some new, demonstration of some new technology, 360-degree cameras that yell at you if you go over there, if you walk over there, you can actually be on your phone and yell at the person you see dumping remotely from your smartphone. We would love to position ourselves as a great place to try out new camera technology and other technology, but this is some of the examples we do have, and we have had some
I
success.
just wanted one for my daughter's room.
Illegal dumping?
And here's some of that data that is showing we are having success in these areas. Again, it's place specific, but we would like to do some more trials with some of this technology and other physical barriers. Then Department of Transportation has had a complaint-based response system for illegal dumping. They get a lot of requests, 65,000. This year we were able to get some additional resources, and Transportation was able to eliminate their backlog of requests, so they were not having requests. Some they weren't able to get to for a couple of months. Now they're back to 7-day response time for regular requests, but hazards, large items in the middle of the road or by school, they're able to get to that same day. So that was, so we are caught up with that effort. The big effort that we also embarked on this year was kind of coming up with these pilot areas where we can do our experimentation with different kinds of both collection, deterrent, enforcement, community engagement. So we came up with 3 pilot areas initially, and those that you see on the screen. They're based on actual data, complaint data, and field data that we've received. They also represent different types of places that can get dumped, so a lot of apartments, trails, creeks, we've got railway, right-of-ways, just a wide variety of areas that have received dumping. We wanted to do, before we began some enhanced efforts in these areas, we wanted to do an assessment. So we hired San Jose State and Comm University, and Bruce Oshesky's here from San Jose State, and we had the students go street by street to record everything they saw that was illegally dumped, from furniture, shopping carts, homeless encampments, hazardous waste, just anything they saw. And they used technology that was able to code it geospatially and take a picture so that we could make sure that what we called a pile of this sort of thing was that thing. So we knew exactly how many mattresses, exactly how many has waste, what it was, everything that was out there. And we also wanted something that was not complaint-based, because we were concerned that there were just portions of the community that just never called in. So we weren't sticking to a complaint-based model, didn't give us an accurate representation of what was really in the field. So we completed that, and you can see on the assessment, the yellow dots are illegal, just general illegal dumping, trash, large items. The red is hazardous waste or electronic waste, which is also considered hazardous and typically has to be handled separately. And the blue is shopping carts, which also have to be handled separately as part of our shopping cart program that we have with the grocery store. In these pilot areas, the other thing we wanted to test was instead of doing the complaint-based model, we would actually have a contractor drive these areas at least once a month, if not two or three times a month, and just collect everything they saw. So we had our contractor green team, they've been doing that since January 2nd. They actually invented, which is a great thing for a garbage truck geek like myself, but they actually used a custom-made dumpster that's with low walls, so the collectors can put large sofas in it. It's hard to see, but it's tied to a garbage truck, to the chain to the arms of the compacting garbage truck, but enabled them to very quickly put large items in it, and then when it tips, it didn't fall because of the angle of the dumpster, so you're able to get a lot of stuff on it very quickly without using a lot of effort of having to lift it over your head. So this is what we used the first day, and it worked really well. It actually worked so well that where we thought we'd need crews with 2 trucks, we were able to use crews with 1 truck, which gave the grant money that we have for this project stretch farther and cover more area. So that's the first pilot. And we are able to pick up a lot of material in this method. The first day, I think we cleaned up 70 or 80 piles, and that included us making sure, I know someday we're gonna end up picking up someone's personal property that they didn't want to get out because it was left out, but really us working with the drivers to figure out what they should be picking up, what they should be leaving behind, but even with all that conversation and protocol figuring out, we ended up getting a lot of stuff even on the first day. And then the other pilot that hasn't begun yet with our commercial hauler, we're going to be doing the same thing on commercial business district routes, and that starts in May with using a commercial truck to actually drive through the streets of the impacted areas and clean up the material. The other thing that we're doing focused on, again, on multifamily is student housing. We know that move-in, move-out days at our universities can generate a lot of dumping. We're especially concerned about privately owned housing adjacent to campus but not on it. So we do have some grant funds to pilot kind of a swap meet combined with a truck that's gonna sweep through those neighborhoods and then collect everything that they see on the first 3 weeks of May. So we're working with San Jose State on that effort now, and we'll be having our first event in May. The other interesting related development that happened in the state of California is the state legislature passed a law that put an $11 fee on every new mattress you buy in the state of California. That money was to go into a fund for a couple of purposes. One of the purposes was that you could return mattresses and they would be recycled or disposed of at no cost to the returning person. And the second purpose was to help combat illegal dumping. So San Jose has a site that's been certified through this program, and that's the Goodwill site on 1080 North 7th Street. We've got 3 more sites in San Jose pending, so anyone can bring a mattress there during their open hours, and it's only that Goodwill site, not all of them, and turn it in at no cost. We're also working with Goodwill to help us, for example, at that San Jose State move-out day, we'll be getting all the mattresses together and bringing them to Goodwill at no cost. They're also using some of that money to help cities combat illegal dumping. That part of the program hasn't started yet. I think it's going to start next year, but we are ready to turn in our application to maximize the money we can get through that program. The other thing we're doing is enforcement and really looking about how to effectively create and make sure we've got a lot of tools for enforcement when we see illegal dumping happening or issue warnings to people. Unfortunately, we've got, like I said, a lot of cities. Carrie, Diane Buchanan and I spent a couple of hours up at Oakland meeting with their staff on Hall. They've kind of gone to the next level on enforcement, and we're able to get a lot of the tools they used for that, including letters and programs that they have. So we're starting on that path. Council did increase the fines for illegal dumping last October, so we're making sure that we really get the word out about that. It's twofold. It is really, really easy to get rid of your large items in San Jose with the programs that we have, but if you illegally dump, the fines are stiff. We also are doing some new efforts, like if we get a bag of trash and we see an address of someone in San Jose in it, we can send them a warning letter saying we noticed your veil in this trash that we found on 10th Street. You're not allowed to do that, and here's the penalties for doing that. And then we've got a really, really large effort underway on getting the word out about how easy it is to dispose of your items in San Jose, and then helping us with eyes and ears on trying to stop illegal dumping when we see it occur. So we're getting this information out in a lot of different channels, both knock and talks, community groups. We've got San Jose State engaged to do knock and talks in those pilot neighborhoods to help them realize how easy it is to get rid of your stuff at no cost here in San Jose. And then also larger campaigns to get the word out, neighborhood groups. We're going to some neighborhood events in our pilot neighborhoods and neighborhood events out of our pilot neighborhoods. We're making sure San Jose crews in the field in all departments have access to this material that they can just easily hand out, so there's no questions about how you're able to get rid of your extra waste that you have. And here's the next one, another version of that. And then here's that, we're doing a bus shelter campaign also. So next steps with this effort, we're going to be going to council committee and council next month, presenting the update, so kind of an update of what you just heard here. We're finishing our assessment of the pilot area. We're still continuing the service, but the baseline assessment from the first part of January to now in our pilot areas where we're doing the regular collection. We're going to be really working with Green Team on figuring out the most effective and efficient way to design those crews that they have to make that as inexpensive as possible, but still get the job done. We're implementing the commercial grant route. And then grants, we're going after some grant funds, again, to experiment, so when we come back to council to request money, we know what the most efficient way to get it done are, and we also know that different areas are going to kind of require different strategies to collect the dump material and do outreach. And then the budget process where some parts of our proposal will be going through the budget process. And then we're very excited to be here. We've been talking about this meeting for months. We wanted to talk to you and get your opinions on how we can connect with people in your neighborhoods, other groups you're involved in the city, how we can better inform residents of what we're doing and what not to do, feedback on some of these strategies and other strategies you may have observed in other places, and then your help or how we can get help on identifying and monitoring dumping hotspots in San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Yes, Robert.
Robert Sandoval, District 7. On your surveys, did you include Fontaine Road, the sound wall of 101 Tully, and further down? And also, if you drive tomorrow on Fontaine Road, you will see, I should have brought the pictures tonight, I didn't know you people were going to be here.
Well, maybe we can get individual locations offline afterwards.
Fontaine Road, I said.
Yeah, okay.
All of Fontaine Road on the sound wall.
And Diane said it's included?
It's included in one of our project
Good,
areas.
okay. Send a truck out there.
Okay.
He's gonna pick up a lot of sofas and mattresses.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. Also to include across Tully, going north, Turlane, on there. there's sound wall. There's trash there too.
Do you have any idea of how it gets there?
I'd sure like to know. I would have turned them in a long time ago, but it happens at nighttime. And in fact, on one of them, I found an address, and I turned it in. What became of it, I don't know. But this has been an ongoing thing. And also, we have a school there, O.B. Whaley, that I took pictures of, and I called them, and they did clean it up right away. I mean, it was a stack about 20 feet long, if not more. And anyway, we have a problem in that area. That's Terra Buena, Fontaine Road, and by O.B. Whaley Elementary School.
Okay, can you get the address?
2655.
Afterwards. Thank you. Desiree?
Desiree Berrigan, District 3. Last year, I drove around several different neighborhoods in District 3, District 6, and District 5. And I went on an illegal dumping reporting spree, and I learned a lot. And one of the things that gets me is there's a lot of neighborhoods who do not have engaged leadership. And some of them do have the engaged leadership, but they're not fully engaged. So this is creating that portal for illegal dumpers to exploit their neighborhoods. One of the other things I wanted to bring up was the signage that reads $1,000 fine for littering. So as we know, littering is completely different than illegal dumping. So if we can somehow work on getting the signage changed out to reflect the illegal dumping verbiage along with the municipal code, I think that would be a great start.
We'll add that to the list. There's a lot of signs, so what we'll try and do is focus in the areas where we're seeing issues.
Right.
But if you guys want to spend a weekend changing out signs.
Okay, Matt?
Matt Wallen, District 8. This is on the suggestion side for outreach. In our district, National Night Out would be an especially good time to go around and get the message out about the large item collection. We have a lot of neighborhoods where they have a very active party and a lot of neighbors gathered together. That's the time to hand out those flyers to people.
How about street festivals too?
Yeah.
Dancing on the Avenue, Stroll the Alameda, things like that.
And we have business card sized ones, and so maybe we can drop those off, and you guys can also start to help us spread the word. They're at libraries, community centers, there are lots of different places as well.
We've also placed it on our website, a flyer, so I'll share the link with you all, and then you can download it yourself if you want to. If you want us to give you the cards, the business cards, we're happy to do that as well.
David?
David Dearborn, District 6. I may have missed this in the data or the presentation. Phone app, geolocating, instant reporting, similar to what Councilman for District 1 put forth years ago, and the city has put out for San Jose Clean. If there was a simple app that you could tap on, take a picture, and that would instantly report to some database that you would use to more efficiently schedule, plan, pick up, and dispose of, or fine, might be nice. And maybe there are people in the San Jose State University or that could work on a project to kind of help make that app very usable and effective.
And we're happy to say that that's one we can almost completely check off. So the procurement is out and it's winding down, and the idea is to have one app like that for residents and the community to send lots of information to the city. And what's cool about what we've asked for is then we can update it, but you can also see, has someone else already reported that, and kind of put a note that says, hey, I think this is important too, which will help us prioritize, but we'll be more readily able to have that conversation without having to keep calling us and all that. And it'll lend itself to the sweeps that we're talking about, so that we might not get there today, but you'll know we'll get there in 2 days, right?
Thank
so
you.
you have
That's
some certainty.
wonderful.
Gary?
There's a couple things. They haven't stated a city address. I don't know if you're gonna have some representation there.
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, we didn't get a copy of this presentation.
No, I was going to ask, is this presentation online someplace?
We should have this, you know, it helps to get these, it helps to get these prior to the meeting so we can go over them. Secondly, you mentioned that you never hear people, you know, you see the result of dumping, but people never call in, you know, during the act. Who's gonna respond to that? If it's called in, what kind of response you're gonna get? Right now, the police don't respond. Who's gonna respond to illegal dumping if somebody calls it in, and where do they call it in?
If you happen to call it into code enforcement, what we need is a license plate number or some other distinguishing marking on a vehicle. If we don't have that, if you just tell us a white pickup just dumped, we won't get out there fast enough. We don't do the code 3 like the police do. But we can and are legally able to run license plates so we can see who the owner of it was and go after that person.
No,
But we
I
need-
guess let's go like with Robert's case, you know, if somebody's dumping something at night and you see it, I mean, you gotta get somebody out there to catch them in the act, or is it
No,
after the
and
fact?
the police aren't going to be able to
No,
do that. And most of the other city services where we have inspectors, whether it's my inspectors for code enforcement or the ESD inspectors, we don't go out, like I said, code 3 like the police do. So that's why we need something
Yeah.
like a license plate number and hopefully a description, but we don't also want you to, you know,
Sure.
go up to the person and say anything because that then puts you in harm's way too.
Some of the insight from the consulting report seems to indicate that the folks that are, in general, with the exception of some of the freeway activity, is they tend to be in the neighborhood. So some of it is, you know, does this person look familiar? You know, how do we apply some peer pressure to sort of make that not be okay in this neighborhood? And then focusing with the deterrence. But as Diane said, I think, you know, we need to message a little bit more, hey, if we just had a picture, and we have gotten a picture of the person, you know, unloading stuff, and we can see their license plate, then we can go after them. But we certainly don't want anyone to confront them. And if we were to go out, I mean, we have a pen, like that's all we have. So we're not going to take someone out either.
Steve?
I know it's not your territory to pick up trash on Highway 87, but I commute on it daily northbound, and seems to be 85% trash northbound. I'm in the carpool lane because I have a sticker, and my husband has, we have called in multiple times when large things are in the Caltrans right away, and they do nothing for weeks. I mean, file cabinets, wooden chairs, lumber loads. It's a lot of construction stuff. It's not people throwing paper cups. It's really big stuff. You're probably aware of it. And they, as you know, are absolutely unresponsive. I mean, it might be a good time to sue them or something. You know.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insight. We're also challenged by that, and we're trying to figure out, how do we get some level of response or some more community focus on it. And so we'll continue to work on that. Joe and the team have met with a lot of the agencies, and they're just not prioritizing it. And so we really need to get San Jose prioritized, because it looks terrible.
Yeah, it looks absolutely awful. And a lot of it, when we report it, we label it as this is dangerous. If a car will hit it, will be damaged. If a motorcycle hits it, they're likely to be injured or killed. Because a wooden chair or a file cabinet where the file, you know, it's been hit by a car and the pieces are all over, a lot of these things are dangerous. And they stay there for months.
That's on Caltrans, that's separate from the city
Absolutely.
program though.
Yeah, and Caltrans has a site that you can do a service request, and you might as well be spitting in the wind.
Okay, Nicole?
I just wanted to echo Desiree's comment that the dumping may be more symptomatic of lack of community engagement and with leadership. And I think the Neighborhoods Commission is here to foster the strategic engagement. So when I look at what we can do long-term, looking at developing our communities and developing leadership is the core thing that was going to make the difference in carrying the day.
Which segues into my question. What can we do to help you, and what can you what do you want us to do? So, outreach, get the community to know about this?
Helping to spread the word for sure. You know, if the pilot areas are looking better, we'd kind of like to hear that too. Like this seems to be somewhat effective, definitely reporting. You know, we really think the large item pickup is a key piece of solving things because people are dumping mattresses and couches, and couch sales must be up because they're everywhere. And we, you know, that doesn't make any sense. We'll come get it for you and it's free. So we'll bring forward a budget proposal this year. Right now, multifamily has unlimited large item pickup built into their rates, and we'll make a proposal this year to have that same opportunity for single family, so that you just call, the hauler will come and get it at your convenience. And so there's really no, it's sort of having folks realize there's a legal way to do this that would benefit the whole community. And then there'll be a couple small folks that maybe aren't from the area, they're driving in, and we can deal with that, I think, more in a more localized, focused fashion. What else do you guys think would help?
One of the things for sure is please continue to report. So, because as Joe had mentioned, we do respond when we get a service request, but it's certainly evident to us that there are locations where there's illegal dumping that have not been reported into us. So encourage everybody to let us know when you see items that are out there, and we're doing as much work as we can to try to identify the trending areas. Like if it's happening in a concentrated area on a repeat basis, we have a better shot of employing some of those deterrents and maybe catching some of the people that are doing this.
Hi, my name is Marcus Mendoza, District 4. And have you guys identified like a category of type of dumpers? Because my experience is you got your haulers as a more severe dumper. He's illegally operating as a hauler, independent. He'll go to your property, he'll charge you for picking up all your trash. Instead of going to the dump, he's going to dump it on some street somewhere. So how do we combat that kind of activity? And I came up with an idea was, I mean, you find these guys easily on Craigslist. These guys are all advertising on Craigslist, phone numbers, all that information's there. We can have our sheriff's department set up a sting, have these people pick up trash. You can embed a tracking device on these items, and then see where they're dumped. And then these people could be arrested, could be charged, whatever the situation calls for, this could be done. This is a very severe impact on communities where I live, and I'm sure throughout the Bay Area. So this is something that should be acted on, you know, promptly. And then you go down the line. You got your remodels, you got your movers, and then you got your high occupancy dwellings where multiple families live in a house, so they can't compact all their garbage in one small container, and then they go and dump it on the street. So that's probably less severe, but there are categories of dumpers. I don't know if you guys have identified that, and there's ways of resolving a lot of those issues if you go down the line. I think you talked about when you purchase a TV, a couch, a mattress, whatever, there should be a charge when someone purchases that, and that charge would be applied to, if you return your old mattress, you get a fee back. You know, you get $20 back. If you a refrigerator, I purchased a brand new refrigerator, Sears came and delivered it, they said, we'll take your old refrigerator for $15. That was the deal. I don't need to deal with that refrigerator. They carried it 2 flights of stairs from where I live. Now that why can't we do that? I mean, statewide, countywide, whatever, and get rid of these couches and stuff. Charge a fee to these stores. They'll charge the customer the fee. They return it. They'll pick it up. Whatever it is. I mean, that would be like the dumpers who, like I said, they're either movers or just a one-time purchase. You know, I don't buy a couch every year. We're buying couches maybe every few years. That would resolve that. But I think the severe dumper is the illegal hauler who's dumping regularly, weekly. I mean, this is tons of trash, and it happens a lot in Alviso. I actually called code enforcement because this hauler, that individual hauler that I knew, operated in Alviso. He had no license. I called code enforcement to come and do it. They did nothing. I mean, it took multiple calls, reporting. I actually got the DA involved before they actually made him move from his location. But all he did was move to Fremont. So what's this guy doing? He's probably still dumping. And I've called repeated calls to Oscar Carrillo at the city. I think I emailed Diane Buchanan right here. I sent pictures, multiple pictures, years of this. And I got little response. I caught a dumper dumping on the road. I called police. They basically said, nothing we can do. So this is a real problem and it needs to be addressed severely, quickly, instead of prolonging this for, you guys have been on this project, how many months, a year?
2 years.
2 years. Yeah, it shouldn't take 2 years to get a resolution, to get answers of how we can correct the problem here. It's very detrimental to the community. As our kids are walking to school, they're seeing trash left here on the street. That's just uncalled for, and it needs to be corrected.
Okay, Mimi?
Hi, good evening. Lily Hernandez, District 5. Well, I want to commend you because I think you have a lot of practical things that are beginning to take place. When I first took on this commission, and I think a number of us may agree, the first issue that my neighbors all came to talk to me about was the illegal dumping that took place. You know, there's a lot of homeowners, we take pictures, we call right away. I have a marketing background, so here's a little tidbit. Have you thought of these places you've already identified have high illegal dumping activity? You know, why don't you put your sign, a big sign that says, hey, you know, don't dump here, there's another way, go here, you know? I mean, this is where the people that you are targeting are going to be coming with the couch. They may think twice if they see a sign giving them some options, you know? So, sounds simple, but I think it might just be, you know, less is more. Just put a sign out there that says, please don't dump here. Here are some options for you. And then I think spring cleaning is definitely the best time to do a massive campaign, whether it's social media, the radio, just let people know as it's spring cleaning, these are some of the options for you, because I didn't know we had all of these different options. So again, thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
Do we need to get moving on with Desiree?
Really quick, Desiree Bergen, District 3, I forgot to mention, from June of 2015 to December 2015, there was definitely an uptick in yard waste, illegal dumping in the form of yard waste. I don't know if it's due to illegal contractors from Craigslist, or but they trim trees, leave huge mounds of piles throughout the different neighborhoods in San Jose. And some of them are just a bunch of leaves, but they have trash debris mixed, like pizza boxes, you know, cups, so it's litter and debris, so definitely something to look out for. When I brought this to the attention of the police at the North Side NAC, they let me know that they had never heard of this kind of illegal dumping, so definitely something to look out for.
Let me take public comment. Ed, you want to say something rather quickly, I hope?
Ed Rest. The issue of illegal dumping, whether it's the tree debris or anything else, or dumping in the creeks and everything else, has been going on for, I've been involved in neighbors for over 15 years. The only way I can see to fix it is to go in and have the city council and basically raise the fine, take it up to a couple $1,000. And then you're gonna start to get it. The other thing that you need to take a look at is the idea, once your app comes up, you're probably gonna get somewhere, but until you make it, you know, financially difficult for them, it's not gonna stop. And we can go out anytime and see the stuff done. Willow Street under 87, they dump all the time there. And the only way you're gonna catch them, the only thing I know how to catch them is use game cameras. They have game cameras that are infrared, and put them down there, they're cheap, a couple $100. You put them up there, you catch them that way. Regular cameras, you're gonna get them stolen. But you know, if you lose a couple $100 camera, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you'd be better doing that than a couple $1,000 camera. But I think you need to raise the fines. Thanks.
Okay, and Pete, you had a question. You're the one that was most.
Yeah, I've got a whole series of questions and comments and things like that, so hang on, I'll get these guys in the frame here.
She pointed at you.
I've been poking around on this since the ESD made the presentation to council last October. And in fact, I've been meeting with these guys ever since then. And I'm kind of a grouch about things. Oops, let me talk into here. I'm kind of a grouch about stuff, but I tell you, to me, this is an example of good and responsive government. These guys have created some solutions here on their own, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I'm very... What we need to do, I think, as a commission is support them. And specifically, I think what that means is make sure that they have the funding to fully implement these programs, because what they've got going right now is good. We just have to make sure that we can continue it along. So I know that some of these things have been funded on an interim basis. We need to get more of that, et cetera. So, I think we need from you the details of what's needed to fully fund these things as we move forward. And I've got 3 specific asks for action items for us tonight, right now. First of all, I'd like us to send immediately, like before the March budget message comes out, what I've been calling a placeholder message, and I passed out a sample of it to the mayor that says this is a priority for the residents of the city and for this commission, and heads up, we need you to fund this. Doesn't have to be anything more than that. Let's just get the item on the table. Then I would like us also tonight to authorize an ad hoc committee to sit around and create this letter, to work with these guys to talk about what's necessary to push this thing forward, okay? And then later, meet on that in April to make sure that that goes out in plenty of time, and then integrate the same information with our formal budget letter that we do later in the year. So I'd like to get illegal dumping put on the agenda for April for discussion and approval of the letter, ad hoc committee to write the letter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do I make a motion to get these things going tonight? Do you want 3 motions? How do you want this to work? Okay, I'll move all 3. David will second all 3. How's that?
Okay, so the question about a budget letter is one of the items for, that's item 6 on the thing tonight, and I actually saw your comments and added some sentences to my draft that I've sent in. So I like that part already. The idea of having items to include on the letter in May for the budget response, that's the second one they talked about. So you want to agendize something in April to do that.
Yes.
That sounds like a definite thing that we can add to our agenda. Ernest, you want to take note of that, or?
Yeah, well, I want to hold back for a second here because it concerns me that the wording that you're saying is on your second item that you want to set up an ad hoc committee to work with a particular city department to draft a budget recommendation for that particular city department.
No,
That's what you just said.
Okay, let me correct it then, because I want the committee to write the letter.
Yeah,
An ad hoc committee to research
that.
and write the letter.
But you said you wanted to work with this department to frame.
Well, then back that off. I want information out of them to know what we need to put in the letter.
Because I think it would be inappropriate for this particular commission to write a letter in conjunction with the city department regarding a particular budget item. I think what your charge is on the budget is to talk about the overall city operating budget, not to pick and choose the department, to champion, or whatever the case is. I think that it's appropriate for you to look at this from public safety, from the point of view of the areas that you are charged with, and certainly DOT is part of that particular charge. But I think it gets into a little bit of we need to talk to the city attorney about how closely you work in drafting a particular letter that focuses on a particular department, to the exclusion of then other departments, because then what should you be talking to PD since they're public safety? Should you be talking, you see what I'm saying?
No, but I'm saying in the previous year's budget letters, we have, for example, talked about supporting the library's efforts to be open late.
You absolutely have.
Supported the community centers to be
You've
open.
talked about
And
the
we
overall
support
city budget.
Right.
The overall.
And I think you were just proposing a paragraph in that letter that would describe the program on the illegal dumping.
Okay,
that would include.
I didn't hear the word paragraph.
Okay, so I heard him saying you wanted to include a paragraph, a section in the budget letter was part of the budget letter rather than being the budget letter. Is that what I heard you, or?
Yes.
Okay, so like a paragraph in the letter, so to have 2 or 3 people work on the suggestions as to what programs would be best to,
Yeah,
that would be fair.
That would be appropriate to focus on one of your issue areas, which is DOT. And this falls within that area. I just want to make sure that you don't put together a motion that is exclusionary.
Okay,
Anyway.
so part of it is an item 6D tonight, D6 tonight, so that's going to get taken care of there. And the next one is agendas. We'll make a note that we'll put it in April. We want to talk about it. The third thing is
The interim letter, a placeholder letter, something that we issue out immediately. And if that falls in the budget discussion, that's great with me.
That's item, where'd it go?
6.
D6.
Okay,
No,
that's fine. If we pick it up there, I'm real happy.
Yeah, that was my intent there. Did you want to say anything else, or?
Only if there was a motion to,
I don't think we need one now.
then fine, I pass.
Okay. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, there's one other bit. I'd like to kind of just get a feeling for the mood of the committee on 3 items or 4 items here. 3. Do we think it's a good idea to try to drive additional funding for this? In other words, is this a priority that we think for our residents and the type of thing that we should be doing?
Yeah.
Yes?
It depends.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen all the other departments. I mean, I think it's important. I don't think it's unimportant, but I don't know what else to compare it to right now, at this minute.
I don't know that we need to distinguish, right? I mean, is this an issue for the residents that we represent? Yes, okay. Second one is, I would like agreement that we should request more city-funded neighborhood dumpster days. Because I've heard that it costs the city 3 times as much to do a dumpster day, 5 times as much, and 10 times as much to do a dumpster day. And right now, we're dropping about $500 per dumpster, both the city and neighborhoods that do it. Neighborhoods are using their CAP grant money to do this, which means you can't get anything else done. So I would like to research, get a straw vote on, is it a good idea that the city fund additional dumpster days so that we neighborhoods don't have to do it, but that we implement them with neighborhood effort as opposed to city efforts?
Now, do you need dumpster days if they have free large item pickups? I mean, it seems like that kind of negates the need, as much of a need.
We can ask Diane. I would think yes.
Well, you were talking 2 different things. That's why I was talking to myself going, what is he talking about? The city-sponsored dumpster days, we do the entire city once every 3 years. And we are at capacity, and we have the 2 hauling companies at capacity every time we go out. So we are very hesitant to want to expand it to once every 2 years or 3 or every year, as some folks have said. And because the haulers don't have enough dumpsters for us now. And so that would be a large cash outlay for them to have to bring in more dumpsters. And logistically, to be honest with you, the areas we have now are so large. My staff, without it costing a lot more money, really are hesitant to do that. But on another issue is if we coordinate with the neighborhood groups to do it themselves, that for citywide, that's obviously a lot less money, but we also, then we have to rely on volunteers at the bins, who in some neighborhoods, they are great, they are there the whole time, and other neighborhoods we've been with, they leave, they get bored about 9 o'clock and wander away. And then the dumpsters are overflowing and DOT has to come out the next Monday and help clean everything up. So, I mean, there are some good points to that, but we also have to make sure that some of this is ratepayer money, and it has to be spread across the city as completely fair, and not certain areas get more than others. And so we come across some funding issues like with that too. So it just kind of, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does.
It's a much larger issue.
Okay. Are we willing to set that aside then? Last thing I'd like to ask, just a mood of the committee here, is right now it's difficult to know who to call. If you want to get something picked up, you have to go onto a website and put in your address and figure out who your hauler is and then call them. I would like to press it for a single point of contact where there's a single place that you call, a single phone number, however that works. The app will help a lot on that, and so that we can actually so people won't go through hoops to get the dumping collected. But if I can call a single number and get the job done, I'm happy to do it. So I'd like some sort of sense of the commission whether that's a good idea or not.
So sjenvironment.org/large items.
So there's now one centralized number to report.
Oh, there is?
And then
Oh, great.
in the areas, we tell you who to call. So if you go, so this is the main one, you go to the next one.
5353.
In the areas, it'll tell you. The VTA one.
It's just the regular city number.
No,
That's to
that
report
takes
the
all of
illegal
them now.
dumping.
So
535,
that takes all of
3500?
illegal dumping calls now.
Yeah, well,
That's all the directory systems.
What was the number?
Oh, right, exactly.
535, 3500.
Do we know how
It's
effective
useless.
that call center number is as of right now?
And then they route it.
Yeah, so because you had said there are multiple points of contact, that's actually true, depending on if you see it in parks or in the middle of the road, on a sidewalk, private
Right.
property, whatever. And so our dispatch office in DOT, in transportation, typically takes somewhere in the order of 6,000 to 8,000 of these calls per year. And then all these other departments take them too. So this number, although it is the general call center, they will be routing any illegal dumping in the public right-of-way directly to our dispatch center. So that has been working that way now for 3 months,
Yeah.
3-4
Okay.
months.
Yeah,
And
Great.
that's working well.
We definitely got the feedback that people were like, well, I can't remember if it's in the street, do I call this number, or if it's on the sidewalk, and so we figured.
That's wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there that and offer an alternative perspective, that dumping isn't always criminal, and I can say that I've helped, that a lot of you know this, I've helped do cleanups for now decades, unfortunately. And when Strong Neighborhoods was ending and sunsetting, I actually ended up spending a year, literally, every Saturday in a city DOT truck picking up dumped items. Sometimes Pete was with me. Thank you, Pete. And to the point where I got known in the neighborhood as Blanco Basura, but that's a whole other story. There were many times where, you know, I don't know how many of you have helped people move recently, but, you know, my suggestion to ESD and DOT is and I really appreciate this, and I've said this before, I think you need to be tracking not just where things get dumped, but when they get dumped, because just my own personal experience, dumping always goes up the first full weekend of every month, because that's when people are moving out. And the psychology of that is it's not criminal, but I'll give you an example of something that happened about 2 Sundays ago right across the street, where we often see couches on 6th Street next to Taqueria San Jose. There were some students that were totally struggling to try to get a couch through the door. And it was one of those huge overstuffed couches, and I have a tape measure in my car, so I measured it out. Couch is 32 inches, because everybody buys now those overstuffed huge couches. The doorways in that building are 30 inches. You can't fit a 32 couch through a 30-inch doorway. A lot of the homes that are along King Road, those older homes that are built in the 50s, they're 30-inch doorways. So if you're moving from a neighborhood that's newer homes and you bought a stuffed, oversized couch or you know, some furniture, and it's the size that you get even at IKEA, you're never going to be able to fit it through the house. So I've helped people move where they get to the point where they're like, there's no way we can fit it through. There's just no way. And it's not criminal. At that point, it's just reality. The only thing you can do is either break the thing up or leave it on the side of the street. And that's what people do. And that's, unfortunately, I knew it was going to happen. I actually tried helping them. I was like, your guys are right. There's no way you can fit this. And Monday morning, it was on 6th Street. Because there's just nothing else they
I
can
would
do.
disagree. They can put it in their backyard and then call and have someone pick it up. I mean, leaving it on the
But at that
street-
point, they've already moved, so they don't have a backyard.
Well, then the landlord needs to take care of it.
Right.
That's one of the target areas is the property owner's responsible. So they need to go the next day and make sure they didn't trash it.
But okay, I understand that, but if they've already moved the items,
Okay.
they're trying to move the
Okay.
items, right?
You wanted to say something, David? One last thing. If the commission or the small committee is to work further with this and put anything in writing considering this, as a commission, we should consider that this affects DOT, building, code enforcement, environmental, park and rec, and many departments of the city. So in writing something, we should speak to the action, the behavior, and the problem, and let the city staff work with us in whatever they feel is the best way in coordinating with each other.
Agreed.
So right now, the action for us is to get out the information on that website, there's free pickup, and how to call 535-3500. That's the three things you want out from us.
Well, yeah, and then your
And a lot of support.
neighborhood groups, the meetings, and the day out, night out, those kinds of things we want to engage with, so we want to know those events,
So, do we
particularly.
have your contact?
So my name is Jenny Loft. I was going to send a link to, should I just send it to you, Pete? Or
Yep.
to-
Senator Ernest, yeah.
Okay, and then with my information, and we would welcome you to share that link and download the information. And also, if you want us to provide you the business card size information, we're happy to do that as well. And then what Joe said was, love the idea about a National Night Out, and any event within your neighborhood that you think would be good to share this
Dancing on the
information.
Avenue, Stroll the Alameda, there are all these festivals.
Yes,
there.
yes, exactly. So we just want to make sure we capture those so that we are not missing anyone. And so just your help in sharing would be tremendous.
We gotta
Thank you.
move on, but I'd like a business card. Huh? Yeah, we'd like a copy of your presentation, so.
Mr. Chair, just not gonna cost anybody anything, so it's not a budgetary item, but just to be aware that to get the outreach part of this done, you've got 5 neighborhood caucuses coming up. Council caucus, well, they're coming up in the spring.
Yeah.
So you've got 5 opportunities to pass on information. You've got the February 20th mayor's priority setting session coming up where you can provide flyers. I think we'll have representatives from each of your departments there. So plan on bringing flyers, because I'll have a table where you can set those things up. You've also got, myself and other staff, the CFO will be helping to staff put together the 10 community council budget meetings coming up in May. So we can provide a space for you. And those are all resident-driven folks that will be coming in from neighborhood groups and just general residents that you can pass out the information. So you have at least 3 different venues that the commission, the city manager's office can help you to pass out more outreach then. And that's not costing anybody anything at this point then. But let's just plan on doing that, and let's connect up so we can get the information then.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to add one more thing. About 3 years ago, on Fontaine Road, I requested cameras.
Later on, later.
Wait a minute.
That moved on.
Larry, let me finish, please, Larry.
30 seconds.
We had cameras out there. I requested cameras. 3 years ago, they came down. And since those cameras came down, we have had a problem. If you check the number of calls I have made and pictures sent, it's been quite a bit. So maybe we need to put some more cameras there where they once were.